Hey everybody, GameHounds podcast. We are here in our pre-show show. Welcome. Waiting for everybody to show up in the chat room. How are you?
I'm good.
So what you got to talk about today? Or what game?
13 Sentinels. More of that.
Is it 1-3 or 13 spelled out?
1-3.
1-3.
13 Sentinels, comma, Aegis Rim is the whole title.
Comma or colon?
Colon. ... Dot.
It's a comma. All right. Aegis Rim. Okay. What other games?
Carto. Carto.
Okay.
And then I have a couple mobile games. Really quick. One called Mastermind.
That?
And then to truly demonstrate how interesting the infinite story is, we will have a live demo, a live playthrough of this RPG.
Okay. All right. What news items you got?
Shit. Well, let me check the Discord. I know stuff happened, but
thank God. By the way, if you are not on the Discord is down there. Let me give you. Hey, we got Miles takes Pokemon.
Although I will say, with the Discord, I am never going to type a message into Discord using the app again, because fucking Apple keeps messing it up with autocorrect. It kept changing dicks to ducks, and then it changed previous to precious, and it's like, oh my God, this fucking autocorrect. Apple won't let me type dicks.
No, Apple does not like dicks.
They don't like dicks.
Siri
it's
doesn't even
ducks.
answer. It used to be Siri got, like a little popped off a little back at you, got you clap back if you told her to fuck off. Now she won't even talk to you. Hey Siri, fuck off.
I won't respond to that.
She just shuts you down.
I try to send a dick pic and it just comes out looking like a duck.
A duck pic.
Yeah. God, it's so offensive.
So I'm waiting for the chat room to fill in because I've got some big news.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's right. Let me check the...
Yeah, it
Miles
has
says
been
it's
a crazy
couple weeks. I know it has, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
It's almost like it's so much news, you can't think of all the news. I mean, between Stadia, we could do a whole show on all the shit that just went down with Stadia.
What happened with Stadia in the past week?
Oh, well, we'll talk about it. I've got it.
Okay, I know Sony had their little showcase and they showed off some stuff.
Okay, Sony showcase. I did not have that, so let's do that. The Sony showcase. Okay. That's what was it? The state of play, was that what it was?
Yeah, state of play.
E3.
No, there's a
E3.
Oh yeah.
Unofficially, but it's totally happening.
I know
canceled.
That yes.
What?
Everyone, the PSN indie sale there's actually some shocking things on that, and also I'll repeat this, but everybody that has a PlayStation owes it to themselves to go buy Oxenfree, because now it's only...
You're doing the show. Stop.
No,
Save it.
I'm gonna repeat it. I'm gonna repeat it, but it's only $1, and like that's.
But you're repeating it to people who are already gonna. These are the same people who are gonna be listening later. Just hold your water, my friend.
You're trying to change my dick pic to a duck.
I am duck picking you right now. Your precious duck pic. All right, so we got people in the chat room. How many people? Who we got? We're missing AC Wraith. I'm a little concerned. Although we are on time today. And no, we will not have Andrew today. He got news last night that he's working late. He's working until 4 o'clock our time, so he won't be on, unfortunately. Bloodbreaker just got
Unless we just stretch the podcast out for our time.
No, I'd rather we not do that. I think everybody would rather we not do that.
I'll take this moment. I do have to advertise a new anime that I've been watching.
All right, so we'll talk about that in the main chat. So hold on to that.
Pre-show.
That's a pre-show.
Is that a pre-show thing? I don't know. I don't know what you want to do.
Your new anime? What's your anime?
Assassination Classroom. It's such a bizarre premise.
Tell me more.
Basically, there's a giant yellow octopus creature that blew up the moon, or basically blew up 70% of the moon, so that it's a permanent crescent, and he's now threatening to destroy the Earth. But he is going to become a teacher for a middle school class in Japan, and if the class can assassinate him before the year ends, the Earth is saved.
That's a genius idea.
So the premise is, he's also, of course, the best fucking teacher in the world.
Right.
Because everybody loves him. Because the class he chose is specifically like E class, which is the way the school is structured. The vice principal, the principal of the school, is actually maybe the main villain of the series, because the way he structures his school is like, I'm going to designate one class the fucking losers, and I'm going to turn the whole school against them in order to like make the rest of the school like, oh, they feel such camaraderie, they feel all together because they have this person that they can all communally beat up on.
Right.
And so, of course, the monster decides to teach E-Class, and it's all a secret because E-Class is like shoved off into the back, up into the mountains where no one can fucking see them. And so the government knows this, and the principal knows this, but all the students don't. And so what's funny is you get these scenes of the kids learning math, learning geography, and then learning hand-to-hand combat during PE. And a lot of it is about, this teacher helping these sort of rejected students like find their inspiration and help them sort of come into their true selves. A lot of good coming of age stuff, and it could be really smolchy. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Schmaltzy. Yeah,
schmaltz is the fat that when you boil chicken, it's the fat that floats to the top.
Okay. Like it could be that, it could be overly sweet, but a lot of that, sweetness is like toned down by just the fucking absurdity of the situation and a lot of the fun that comes from it. But what's neat is there's 3 seasons, like one is 22 episodes and then 2 that are 12 or 13 each. And it seems like at the beginning of the 3rd, which is where I'm at, they basically explain what's going on. Like you get the creature's backstory and like, who is he, where he came from, why he wants to be a teacher, all that stuff. And there's still like a whole season left. And so I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. But I'm happy because unlike a lot of the shows that I've seen recently, I know this has an ending. But yeah, it's really fun. It's a good balance of, sweet, nuanced character growth and just fucking absurd humor. Especially as all these kids try to assassinate their teacher. And it's a lot of like, because they very quickly take to it, like, there's no, oh, but he's such a good teacher, maybe we shouldn't kill him. No, it's, oh, you're such a good teacher, one of these days I'm going to fucking put a bullet in your head. And he's just like, that's my student.
All right. So we need to start the show fairly soon, but 2 things. One, I have to go to the bathroom, but first I want to show you something. So I'm going to let you just riff on your own. I'll be back in a second.
It's the Nick Show. All right. Yeah, welcome to the Nick Show. I'm just going to sit here and stare at you for 2 minutes. Oh, I guess actually I'll talk to Miles. He said that the Assassination Classroom movie is actually pretty good, which is I didn't know there was a live action movie, but hearing that it's good is also kind of weird because usually live action anime things tend to be really bad, and especially when you're dealing with a kind of monstrous creature that looks good in animation, trying to translate that to live action, I can only imagine it would be really hard and weird. So maybe we'll have to check that out.
So I got my thing I want to show you before the
Okay.
show.
Is Apple going to censor it?
No.
Oh,
We have a puppy. We picked her up this morning.
Oh, look at her.
Everybody meet Janet. She was sleeping in her kennel.
Did you name her after the Good Place, Janet?
That's right. She's good, Janet. This is good, Janet. So she is brand new. She's feeling kind of down because one, she was asleep until a second ago.
She looks sleepy.
Yeah, and two, she got her second vaccination right before we put her in the car, which made her throw up a little bit on the way home. So it was a little bit of a rough ride home, but this is the new GameHound, Janet. Say hi, Janet. Everybody.
Hi.
So that's our girl. Oh, she still smells. She smells like puppy. You know that puppy smell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she is so overloaded at this point because we got out of the car 45 minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah, and like knowing that she was sleeping and she got the vaccinations, like she's in that kind of dazed, drugged state.
Yeah,
But
she's
adorable.
Nice. Yeah, she's a good girl. Oh yes. So she's
Has
a wired
Has she met
Buddy?
Buddy?
Buddy doesn't care.
Okay.
He walked in, he was like, "Meh."
But he's just
as long as I know I'm not staying here, I'm fine. But I was able to confirm, I'm pretty sure that Buddy was a backyard breeder or some not great breeder dog, because as soon as he walked in and he smelled all the dogs there, because rescues smell like rescues, especially to a dog, he immediately locked his knees and was like, and just started shivering.
Oh.
I think he thought that he was getting dumped. And when he realized he wasn't, it was like, all right, it's another dog. Whatever. That's fine.
He's like, you're not going to leave me here. Oh, you're taking one back? Okay.
Yeah, she's pretty depressed because of her vaccination, I think. And also just total sensory overload.
Yeah, she just needs a good nap.
Yeah, she needs a nice long nap and to wake up a couple of times in this house. So let me go put her back.
Okay.
Girl. Gonna go put her back and then we will start the show.
Okay. The GameHounds has another hound. For a moment there, the cats were outnumbering the dogs.
Yeah, now we've got an even amount of cats and dogs.
Yep.
Yeah, it's my girl. What a good girl you are. Yeah. All right, be right back.
Okay. That's really cute. Part of me would really like to get a dog, but I don't think I could swing one in this little apartment. And I don't think Shepherd, the cat, would appreciate that too much. Although maybe if I got a really tiny puppy that then Shepherd was bigger than, so he could kind of feel confident and lord over for a while, then maybe he would grow to accept it when the dog got bigger. Maybe. I don't know. But Shepherd was not a really dog cat. Jupiter would be fine though. So, in the chat, and I see in the chat, Miles says Pokemon, and that was a while ago, but kind of is, yeah.
Kind of is. If you think about it, when it comes to the Pokemon of COVID, there are 3 like ultra rare Pokemons. 4, really. PlayStations, Xboxes, vaccines, and puppies. Those are the 4 things you can't fucking find. I got 3 of the 4.
Okay.
So
that's good progress. Right. I'm only halfway
Eventually,
myself.
I will catch them all.
You gotta.
Yeah. Man, getting a puppy from a rescue. Holy crap. That is a blood sport right now.
Yeah,
Almost
I know
impossible.
you had sent me text before that you kind of had concerns about the rescue you were looking at. So they turned out to be okay?
No, that's a different. We decided not
Oh,
to take the
okay.
dog.
Oh.
We bailed on that dog. It was a long conversation because I knew that once you walk in and somebody puts a puppy in your arms, you take the puppy. And that puppy was not not ready for us. If we were all healthy and we were in a different situation, then yeah, we had like a big yard and we were devoted to putting a lot of time into this dog. It was a 3-month-old dog that had never been in a house, never been indoors, not never been kept indoors, never been indoors.
Oh.
And yeah, so less than 0 as far as housebreaking, because of course 3 months old by that point, they should be pretty much housebroken. You are working against a lot. And so we had a good heart to heart, Kevin and I, and we opted not to go down last night or yesterday to south of Fresno, which is 3 and change hours. So it'd have been 6 hours of driving. This one was an hour away, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah.
Yeah, the fact that you had to go an hour away to get a dog.
Yeah, you pretty much have to, at least here in the Bay Area, you have to be on Pet Finder and reloading almost constantly, like checking 3 or 4 times a day, because as soon as the dogs come up within an hour, they shut down the applications because they have too many applications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a dog now.
Yeah, everybody. Well, as soon as the stay-home order happened anywhere in California, absolutely, people wanted dogs because they're stuck at home and might as well get a dog. Now they're not having to worry about going into the office and they have the time. So yeah. All right. So are we ready to start the show?
Yeah.
All right. Let me get the stuff in here. Yeah, Kevin is out right now buying dog food. Peppy food. Because we found out last night. In fact, Blood Reaper was on when Kevin's like, hey, do you want an appointment for 9:30 in tomorrow morning? It was like, not really. But it's the only way I can do it and still do the show. All right. Come on, you. Almost done.
Oh, I was just browsing something on Kotaku and found an update to a story we talked about. That's good news, actually.
Okay, good. All right. Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's start the show. All right, going live.
And these podcasters are big fat potty mouths. If you're younger than 18,
I'm a little concerned. I haven't seen AC Rafe.
Stop this podcast now. Oh, and your mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
Mics are hot. Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 583. We are recording on Sunday, February 28th, 2021. I'm Edie Sellers. With me is Nick DiNicola. It's the last show of February. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing really good.
Good. We have no Andrew today. Andrew had to work late, so it's just us here. So we were showing before the show. By the way, if you are listening to the show as a podcast and you ever want to join us live, please feel free to do so on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Facebook. On Twitch and Facebook, we are the GameHounds. On YouTube, we are GameHounds Vids. I just showed our new puppy. We have a new GameHound. GameHounds has officially outlived one dog and started in on another. Because the GameHounds on our logo is Zoe. It was designed more or less to be my old dog who passed away a couple of years ago. And so now this dog looks nothing like that, but still she's the other official GameHound. So now we are a 2-dog family. It's just, I have no idea why I've got one. Why did we did this? This is absolutely ludicrous, but it happened. What are you going to do? Sometimes you just can't plan this shit. So how are you? How's things?
Things are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting into anything lately? We were talking about an anime as a pre-show that you liked. What have you been playing?
I will start with a game that I talked about last week. I didn't get too far into it because I think we ran into some video issues. It's called 13 Sentinels.
Careful, we may have those video issues again.
There's no way it could happen twice in a row, right? That's like lightning striking twice. What?
Oh, careful there. You could get yourself into a lot of trouble. We could get demonetized real fast like that. I am not afraid of being demonetized because we're not making any money on this anyway.
We have nothing to lose.
Fuck you, YouTube. So sorry.
13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, a sort of visual novel / tower defense game about kids in giant robots trying to save a city from some sort of monster. It might be robots, it might not be. The way I described it last week, I talked a lot about the visual novel side of it and how, because of the way it's structured and you're constantly bouncing back and forth from character to character, because you might play, there are 13 protagonists, obviously, as per the title. And you'll start playing through one of their stories, and then you'll hit a gate, and the game will say, you can't progress until you play X's story, until you get to, like, the poison event in Neji's story. So that means I got to play Neji's story until I get to a certain event. Fucking cat scratching the couch. Hey!
Should get a dog. They're much better. All they do is sleep. Puppies.
Oh yeah, yeah. They don't do anything to the furniture.
No, they never get in anything. They're perfect.
No. So then at that point, it's like, oh, I have to play Neji's story, but Neji's story is also locked until I play Tomi's story. So, there's this, the game forces you to jump between all these different characters. And then as you play their story, they are constantly having flashbacks and describing dreams that they've been having. And the dreams can take place in the future, in the past, in something's going on. Like, who knows? These dreams kind of take place all over the place, all over the timeline. And so you run into situations where it's like, oh, guy A dreams and, girl B is strung up and her chest is open and it's only her torso up because the rest is robot. It's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Is that girl a robot? How? When? Why? Huh? And it feels like this major story revelation, but it's just kind of dropped casually because this guy's like, yeah, I'm describing my dream to my classmate. But it does a lot of that. And that's really cool because it lends the story a sense of just constant twists and constant escalations of, you kind of think you're starting to get a grasp on things and then it throws something at you and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then you kind of start like, okay, I think things are starting to come together, and then it flashes to another future and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And so it's really compelling. And what's interesting is I've only ever really experienced this type of mystery in games. The Zero Escape games did this really, really well. Well, they kind of kept throwing twists at you, and you kind of this sense of constant escalation of a mystery. I think the only other media I've seen do that is the show Dark on Netflix, which is kind of a similar multi-timeline German mystery series. It's pretty good, but yeah, that constant escalation of mystery is really cool. But there's 2 modes in the game, and they're like hard split. There's a menu where you choose story or destruction, which is basically the tower defense. And the tower defense mode is interesting. It's not particularly difficult, but I really like that. I think that makes it a bit more enjoyable. But the way it works is that it's tower defense in that there are going to be waves of enemies coming at you, all drawn to a specific point that they're trying to destroy. But it's turn-based in that you have a bunch of units on the ground that you control on a turn, and then when they make a move, their turn is over and a meter starts filling up. And when that fills up, the game automatically pauses and allows them to take their turn again. And you can choose to not have them take an action and let time continue forward and then press a button and they will act. So, there's this kind of time management involved. But I like that, it's not tower defense in that you're constantly placing turrets or things down. Like, oh, I need to get resources and then place turrets and all that. You've got soldiers and you're sending them out, and you've got attacks and moves. So there's this nice sense of strategy in that, oh, I see a bunch of enemies clumped over there. I'm going to do a wide range missile attack. There's a bunch of guys lined up. I'm going to shoot like a big sniper beam that goes straight. And then you get really strong enemies. And you're like, okay, I want to get the melee guys in there to do a devastating attack. But first I need to take out all the little tiny minions with my long range attacks. And so it's cool in that it feels really fast paced because all of the matches take like maybe 2 minutes at most, 2-3 minutes. But because when your turn comes up, time pauses. And then actually when you execute an action, that action happens without the timer going down. So if I'm going to throw a bunch of missiles at a group of enemies, I can do that, destroy all of them, stop them in their tracks without the timer going down at all. And then my turn's over, the game kind of continues, my meter starts filling up, time moves forward by like 3 seconds, and then someone's turn comes and time pauses again. And that's neat because the actual pace of it is fairly slow because things keep getting interrupted by me having to take my turn. But because it happens over 2 minutes, it feels fast. And it's a really cool battle system that makes turn-based feel really, really fast and really, really action-packed. And all this stuff is happening within seconds of each other. And it's just a lot of cool, like, mech action in a surprisingly, like, slow-paced and understandable battle system. So it's really cool. And I've been playing on the hardest difficulty and still haven't had too much issues. I know some people find the battles not necessarily boring, but just they're more interested in the story, and so they've put it on easy and just play through it that way, and that's entirely fair. Because the game in no way, like,
it is a weird mix of
you.
Story and tower defense.
Yeah, and especially the fact that from what I can gather, it feels like all of the combat sequences take place after all of the story sequences. Like, it feels like the story is all building up to something because you get these little tiny cutscenes like what's going on here in battles. And they don't give you too much story, really. But the way the characters interact with each other, they know each other. And when you're in the story mode, they don't know each other. And so part of this mystery is, how are these two modes going to connect? How is the story mode going to lead into the battle mode? And I'm curious to figure that out. And also, the game does a good job of making you like these characters. I want to see what happens with them. Each of their stories feel pretty unique, which is impressive for there being 13 of them. None of them feel repetitive. They all have very distinct personalities. And what's nice is, because there's so many people and there's so much shit and the timeline is so messed up, there is a like archive that you can look through. And that archive, you can see like all the events in a linear timeline that shows like what happens, all the stuff that you've unlocked, or you can break it out by character. So if I'm going to play Juro's story and I'm like, well, fuck, what happened with Juro? Because he got locked early on. I can go to his archive and see, okay, what is the timeline of events in Juro's story? And it's just like a straight, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And I'm not going to spoil anything because it only shows events that I've unlocked. So even if I've seen events that relate to Juro in someone else's story, that's going to be in his timeline because he was involved. But it's a nice, easy, intuitive, simple way to get refreshed on what the hell is happening with this guy's timeline before I jump into his story again. So, yeah, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. If you like visual novels, the Zero Escape games, this is totally in line with that, and it's really cool.
Good. Anything else?
Yeah. So quick, on Game Pass, I played this absolutely fucking delightful little puzzle game called Carto, Carto, and this is a neat map-based puzzle game where you're this girl with a magical map trying to like explore the world and meet back with your grandma. And the way it works is you're looking at the world from a top-down view, and you'll kind of realize, oh, there's this square that I can see, and that's it. Well, then you kind of go into your map and you find these map pieces. And with those map pieces, you can rearrange them. And when you rearrange the pieces in your map, when you go back into the world has changed to fit the way that map is. So, like if I have a road going left to right, I can then take that map piece out, rotate it so that it's going up and down, put it someplace else, and when I go back into the world has changed so that I can then go along that road up and down instead of left and right. And it uses this to force you into a lot of puzzle solving. So like early on, there's this guy who says like, oh yeah, I'm looking for my lost sheep. Usually she's in an area that's surrounded by other sheep. And so it's like, well, how do I do that? And you want to take all the map pieces, like, because there's 4 pieces with sheep on them. And it's like, okay, I'm going to put those 4 pieces up, down, left, and right. And when you do that, the centerpiece suddenly magically appears. And that's where the missing sheep is. And so the game is filled with puzzles like that, where you have to change the world around you in order to get someplace. And yeah, it's just so delightful because the girl doesn't talk, but she communicates with her arms and like emojis in a way that's really cute. And a lot of the people that you meet are just kind of funny and quirky and charming. The situations you get into, like the environments, are really interesting. There's like just this grass plains, but then later on you'll find like a hotel in a volcano, and they're like, oh yeah, the volcano is great, we've only had 100 burn victims in the past year, but we're getting better. And they're like, oh, what was it, there's a sign that said lava, nature's spiciest water. And so there's a lot of just good little gags and humor throughout the game. That's on Game Pass. I highly recommend it if you're just looking for something to kind of relax with. Like I said, it's absolutely delightful game.
Sounds cool. All right, so next game.
Yes, I played a pair of iPhone games. One of them we will quickly play together. But first, I played a game called Mastermind, which is like a 3D Minesweeper. And it's actually really cool. It's Minesweeper, so if you kind of know how it's played. And the 3D affects it really only on the edges because it's a cube, but there's nothing inside the cube. So like, and that kind of threw me off at first. So, with Minesweeper, you hit a square and it gives you a number. And that number means that there's that many bombs directly in the area around the square you just touched. So if there's 1, you know that there's like 1 bomb around you. If this was like a truly 3D cube that you're dealing with, and you're dealing with stuff inside, you can't really see that, right? You can't see inside the cube because the front of the cube is over. And so what I learned eventually is that the cube is hollow. And so really what you're only doing is, if you're on the edge and you see a 2, you know that 2 kind of wraps around one edge and then goes around the other. And so you kind of have to take that into account. And really, it means that whenever you're solving a Minesweeper puzzle, any level really consists of like 6 Minesweeper puzzles because it's a cube. And yeah, it's a simple concept, then it's just executed really well, and it's a super fun kind of time waster that I've And
I cannot find any video on it. It is
Really?
It is not Peaky Blinders Mastermind game. That is a totally different game.
No.
There's
Yeah.
absolutely nothing on it on online. So yeah, I will take your word for it. So
Okay.
what's the other one?
It's called The Infinite Story. And this is basically a RPG campaign written by an AI. And so we're going to play some of it right now. Choose your class. Pirate, cleric, squire, rogue, knight, noble, peasant, ranger, wizard.
Anybody in the chat room want to pipe in on this one? I always go for wizards, but that's just me. Anybody?
Okay. Take a moment to check the chat. It doesn't seem like anyone's chiming in.
It takes 7 seconds for them to get it anyway. Actually, I think 30 seconds for them to see it.
Okay.
There's a delay.
We'll just you can see.
So it's
all
just
kind of
strictly
blurry.
text.
Yeah. So we'll choose wizard.
Okay.
Hit next. What's your name?
Bob.
Okay. Bob the wizard. Oh, I typed Bib, but whatever.
Bib the wizard. It's the Bibster. Yes,
you are Bib, a wizard living in the kingdom of Iser. You own a magic staff and a book of spells. You finish your long journey and finally arrive at the ruin you've been looking for. You look around and see that it's actually quite large, but not as big as you thought. There is a small entrance on one side, and you quickly head inside. When you enter, you find yourself in a room with several large doors leading to other rooms. What do you do? And the thing is, there's an entry field where I could just type whatever. This isn't a multiple choice. This is, what do you want to do?
Pick my nose.
Pick my nose. Action being executed. You pick your nose and begin sniffing. It smells like, well, nothing really. You just know it's there, but you can't put your finger on what it is. You decide to keep sniffing until something comes out. Eventually, you get bored and leave your nose alone. What do you do next?
Punch a wall.
Punch a wall. Okay, action being executed. You do this twice more before realizing that you're still stuck. You decide to try another option.
So the AI is actually reading what I type in and then formulating an answer.
Yeah.
In real time.
Yes. But the thing is, it's not necessarily like incorporating all of the history into it. And so, you get into these situations where it's just going to present something new out of the blue. And it's like, because it's just deciding on that. Like, oh, your friend appeared. And it's like, what? I didn't know I had a friend with me, but fuck, whatever. I'm going to roll with it. And so that's what a lot of the game is just this sort of on the fly RPG.
So it's like a Zork, but you can't, there's no, what's the word I want? No solution for it because it's all procedurally generated by an AI.
Yeah, it's all just complete freeform.
Now, can you put something in there that actually changes the story? Like if picking my nose revealed, that it would reveal something, or that I could say pet my dog and then all of a sudden the dog becomes part of the story.
Well, let's see. What if I say pet my dog? D-O-G, not fish. That's
pet my fish.
I'm having trouble typing on recently. Your eyes widen as you realize that you have no idea how to pet your dog. You look around for some sort of object that would be similar to a dog's collar. You find a small metal ring with a button on one side. This seems to fit perfectly. What if I push the button? And remember, we were in a ruin. We don't know why we're in this ruin. And we've kind of gone all the way off on this tangent of a fucking dog collar. The button clicks and a light shines from within the ring. The ring begins to glow and you feel a slight tingle run through your body. Your dog jumps onto your lap and nuzzles against your chest. You press the button again and the ring glows brighter than ever.
So the dog does become a story, and I have introduced the dog into the story.
Yeah. So now, what if I push the button again? P-U-S-H, not punch, push.
We already punched the wall.
Yeah.
Why don't we punch a button?
This time, the ring lights up even brighter. You push the button once more and the ring disappears. You stare at the empty space where the ring should have been. You turn back to your dog, who continues to sit beside you.
So we did introduce the dog to this story. Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. How long are these stories?
I don't know. Like, I've only played through a couple things, and then like I've backed out to try another character. And what's interesting is like you can, if you do an action you don't like, you can kind of rewind to the last choice you did and like do something else. So like if you get in a situation where you die.
Right.
And yeah, there's a lot. I don't know the limits of it. But it's just a really cool thing to play around with. And it's actually free on the iPhone. I assume it's probably also free on Android. But I think that there's got to be some sort of, there is a market. But actually, this is all, let's see, get gold. There we go. There has to be a microtransaction in here somewhere. Because I know.
Always.
Yeah, okay. There is, because there were 2 classes that were locked for me. Like Wizard was the last one, but there's also like Orc and I don't know, maybe Dark Wizard, Necromancer. But yeah, that's
very cool.
That's the infinite story. It's whatever you fucking want it to be.
I am completely down. How much does that cost?
It was $0. Like I haven't paid anything into it. Like you get all those classes that I mentioned.
It's a free one. It's free to play.
Yeah, free to play, and like if you want extra classes or extra scenarios, because I guess there's fantasy, there's also simple. I guess that's like everyday life. Oh, child, Pokemon trainer, breast tamer, football player, and it looks like
I mean beast tamer, not breast tamer.
BREST. But I think these may be community generated things because it has usernames next to it.
Okay.
And there's also romance, to be a teenage student, a princess, a slut, a male slut, sci-fi.
So, user generated content is, keeping in track with what it always is.
Yeah. In sci-fi, I could be a Jedi Knight. I could be an imposter. I could be a Saiyan. I could be the Predator.
I love it.
Oh my God, there's a not safe for work tag. I didn't see this before.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to definitely have to look this up. This sounds very cool.
I could be a trap boy. I could be a stepsis, a horror master, a sex doll, succubus, slave lord.
Good to know. All right. So Infinite Story. Is it on the App Store? Is it on Apple?
It's on the App Store. I downloaded it for the iPhone. Infinite Story.
I'm in. Totally in.
Just a fucking cool thing to play around with. That's like, you mentioned a dog, and all of a sudden the dog's in the fucking story, and you're like, what? Like just playing around with the limits of it is really neat.
So, let's see. What have I been doing? Hey, AC Wraith finally made it in. I know he says I didn't hear my alarm, dude. By this point, we're usually just starting the show, so
that's true.
I'll give you credit there.
And I will say,
there's the link for Infinite Story.
And Bitters in the chat said it is on Android.
It is on Android? Okay, good. Good. Yeah, he says it's a game seems cool. It reminds me of an AI dungeon. Except text.
Yeah.
So let's see. What have I played? I have only done one game, and I have done it every single night in the Discord. There's our Discord. Please feel free to join it, and I will share with you. The Discord is actually starting to develop out into quite an interesting little space. I mean, in addition to our general, which is just go in there and talk with everybody and what you know. We're also, everything that we do that we have on social media shows up in our social media feed. But we've also got, pimp yourself. If you've got something that you're doing, whether it be a game or a story or whatever, something happened and you want to pimp yourself out here in your Pimp Yourself. But most importantly, we've got a games deal page. We are posting game sales as we find them, including the games with gold. I put that one up a couple of days ago. What was it? Mega Man 3 for $13.47 on Game Billet. I think that was just yesterday. It was only good for one day. But the Ezio collection for $11.99 on Xbox Live Now. That was one day only, so it was yesterday. So people are posting the game deals that they're finding, and both AC Wraith and I are finding quite a bit of them. So if you are looking for games, please feel free to join us in Discord. But in the gaming channel, which is down here, that gaming channel, I am pretty much there every single night playing Assassin's Creed, Crusader Kings 3, and been playing it almost obsessively. I'm there every night, usually with Blood Reaper. He's joining me and we're just talking about stuff while we're playing the game. I finally now have the Empire of Scotland. I just last night turned it into the Empire of Britannia. We are fending off internal factions that are trying to dethrone me or get independence from me. I have already taken over Denmark and Norway, and now Sweden, and now I am trying to take over Norway. I'm trying to find a way in order to do it, because you can't just walk over and do it. You actually have to have a reason, a casus belli, to actually start a war. And that has to be for the whole kingdom. So I'm trying to find ways of that, trying to fend off, trying to stay on the good side of the HRE, the Holy Roman Empire. France, we are, even though my king died last night, so now it's my sister is the queen of France. I am still trying to slowly whittle away to make France entirely Scottish. And then we've also got our fingers down in Spain, the Spanish Peninsula. We are working on, we just took over one of the emirates down there, the Moorish Emirates. And now we're starting to eye another one, starting holy wars, murdering priests because they are not good enough for me, which is usually the only way you can get rid of your archbishop, is to murder him. Occasionally murdering girls that have been betrothed to heirs of other thrones, so that you can marry, as soon as that you murder the girl who was supposed to marry him, you can approach him and say, hey, how about you marry my daughter instead? Okay. So yeah, we're slowly but surely being terrible people, but being really good kings, emperors right now.
So the last episode I saw, you were dealing with this little island way up in the northwest.
Iceland.
Was it part of Iceland?
It is Iceland.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I walked in and just turned them into,
because I remember
paste.
you put your men up there and then they fended you off. And you were like, what the fuck? These people have a surprisingly good army.
Yeah. We sent something like 20,000 soldiers up there. It's like, oh, you want to play that game, huh? So yeah, we just went in. It's like, okay, we're not playing around. Gloves off. We've had some very near misses with internal factions trying to dethrone me, or people that are cousins that have claim to one of the many thrones that I hold. In addition to being the Emperor of Scotland, I am also the King of England, the King of Ireland, the King of well, the King of Norway actually is still there. King of Denmark is sort of still there, but they're my vassals. But there are people that are like, I hold a claim to the King of England. And it's like, nah, no, you don't. Not anymore. Stripping people, waiting until they pull some kind of crap, sending in my spy master, finding out if they have any secrets that I can imprison them and then strip them of their titles or force them to relinquish their claims so I can get rid of them, or worst comes to worst, just murder them. It's been hard. And especially whenever you have a new king that comes on the throne, everybody pops up. Everybody decides they don't want to be part of your empire anymore as soon as you get a new king. So then you have to spend a bunch of time bribing people and making nicey and making them your friends and occasionally murdering them so that they will stop trying to overthrow you. It's being a king.
Makes sense.
Mo money, mo problems. Mo land and mo vassals, a lot mo problems. So that's what we've been doing. And I've been doing that every single night in Discord. Pretty much definitely from about 10:30 on till I go to bed. But on occasion, after my daily radio show that I do for my neighborhood, which is right around 7:00 Pacific time until about 8:00, and then I come back later and finish it off for the evening. But yeah, I'm there pretty much every night streaming. We are making decisions together. That's the thing, is that it plays some of it, the battles play fairly fast, or you could slow them down and make them play really slow. But decisions on policy or how you want to handle things, or pop up like, oh shit, something happened, what do I want to do here? We're playing this together and making a decision. Who do we want to have my daughter marry, so that we can either create an alliance or that we can ensure an alliance for my son when he becomes the heir. It's a constant battle. How much money do we want to give to people to make them like us? It's gotten a lot easier now that I have more cash under my belt because we're actually an empire. We're actually turning a pretty good profit. But even so, it is a constant struggle to stay on the throne, and we are playing it together however you guys want to play. Sometimes there's nobody in the chat that's watching me. I play it by myself. And then sometimes when somebody's in there, it's like, okay, what do we want to do here? Who's trying to murder me? How do we want to find out who's trying to murder me? And when we find out, what do we want to do to that person? So it's been fun. So yeah, highly recommend. Of course, Crusader Kings is amazing. We're waiting for new DLC. We have no idea what the DLC might be coming out soon, but new DLC coming out soon. It's probably going to be a new campaigns and things that we can play. Depending on how this goes, I may very soon put this campaign to bed and start another campaign instead of trying to breed beautiful, intelligent, healthy offspring. I am thinking of starting one where I am going to try and breed stupid, dumb dwarves with hunchbacks and just inbreed. See how far I can get with just inbreeding everybody in my line and see what kind of horrible traits come out.
Yeah, I'm sure you can come to rule the world.
Right. All of us, like, hair-lipped, hunchbacked dwarves. Ugly, really ugly, hideous dwarves. That's one of the characteristics you can have, is hideous. Just rule the world. So yeah, we might have to do the incest is best version of that.
But I am curious how far you can take the the Empire of Scotland, because I remember when you were playing another campaign and you died and you had to start over, and this was the one that you started over at, and you kind of slowly built it up to become the emperor.
Mm-hmm. I started out as a lowly king of Scotland under siege, actually lonely queen of Scotland under siege from everybody. And over I think we're probably now at 7 generations have gotten quite a huge amount of land and are a world power. Everybody's kind of freaking afraid of us, and rightly so. They should be. That we originally started out with a couple thousand troops. Now we're at 50,000 troops, and we could pretty much take on, I don't know if we could take on the whole world together, but if everybody on my side of the my line, essentially, if all of my vassals all agree to do it and send all their guys, there's nobody that can stand against us. Possibly the Mongols, but they fell apart quite some time ago into chaos. So now it's all tiny city states and county states and duchies. So they're not organized enough, but they were the only ones at this point that could stand up to us. We could walk into the HRE and just mow them over. Prefer not to. It's just long and tedious and opens me up to a lot of other stuff going on. But yeah, Blood Reaper points out making naked people put stuff on. Yeah, we have to do that too. There is one religion called the Adamites that believe that we should go back to the original state of Adam and Eve. And so every once in a while, one of your Catholics converts to Adamitism. And it's like, oh God, oh no, nobody wants, put some clothes on. And then you have to make them your friend while they're staring at you naked, and their wives are standing there naked. And you're like, hi, good to see you. I really like you. You're my best friend. Hey, by the way, now that you're my friend, I'm going to force you to convert. Okay. Trying to get them to put their damn clothes on.
Watch, it's going to be an Adamite that leads to the downfall.
Yeah, we could convert our kingdom to Adamitism at this point, because we make enough money. We don't need the church. Bitters Plus says voice chatting with you guys is cool. Yep. Every once in a while you join us in the voice Discord. And we will chat with you guys about the news or whatever's going on. Old people, couples. Yeah. Those are the ones that are very unfortunate when they are Adamites. That's a little on the odd side, staring at a 75-year-old woman.
That are Adamites.
Nobody looks great naked, put it that way. Nobody looks awesome. But the 75-year-old the 75-year-old women look better than normal naked 75-year-old women, but it's not much. It's still awkward. Pardon me. Swallowed wrong. Breathing. Important skill. Very good life skill.
It is.
So, shall we hit the news?
Yeah.
All right. Let's hit the news. This is the GameHounds news, the news, views, and commentary. Oops, sorry about that. This is the GameHounds news, the news, views, and commentary of the week in gaming with Gamer Edie and Nick DiNicola. And our first item is... you pick one. There are so many to talk about right now.
I feel like start with something simple. PlayStation has announced their PlayStation Plus games for March, and it includes a really big surprise, at least for me. There's Remnant from the for PS4. There's Remnant from the Ashes, which is
this is the PSN games.
Yeah, the PSN games. Remnant from the Ashes, which I thought was an okay Dark Souls-esque shooter. But then they're giving away Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Right.
Which I'm really surprised by because it's a AAA game.
Right.
It got really good reviews and it sold really well. So this isn't like them dumping it onto, the PSN games as a way to try to boost things. Like, this was, by all accounts, a smash hit for Square Enix, and yet they're putting it out there, maybe I think it's been almost exactly a year since it came out. And I know that they have announced some extra DLC for it, but still, I'm surprised that they're putting it out there. That's really cool.
Yeah,
and that's a really good game,
especially in light of the Xbox, the games with gold this month, which is catching a lot of hell because PlayStation Plus free games are so good this month, And then games with gold this month is Warface Breakout and Metal Slug 3, which are two very old games and not exactly, huge titles by comparison. So, yeah, a lot of people are like, what the fuck? Yeah, I know that you really want us to get Games Pass, but you don't have to shit on us if we're just going to go with Xbox Live. Live Gold. Don't be assholes about this that we haven't, at least try to give us some good games. So, yeah, they're catching a lot of hell on Twitter and other locations of people kind of complaining that the games with gold were so bad this week. I mean, this month by comparison. So, yeah, that's some good stuff. Really? That's what you want to start with is games with gold?
And I know well, it's
all the news.
One. And also there's a game they announced for PS5 called Maquette that I've never really heard about. And I'm trying to find a video about like what it actually is, but it's just taking a while to load.
Well, while you do that, why don't we talk about stuff that's actually above the fold on this?
Well, see, that's why you just lead in, you start small and you get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, God. All right. So big news. First one is EA has killed Anthem Next officially. That happened this week. Jason Schreier mentioned last week in an article that, and this is out of Bloomberg, that EA would be deciding this week about the future of Anthem Next. And sure enough, he was right, because this week we learned that Anthem Next is officially dead. BioWare has issued the following statement. On Wednesday, they said, in the spirit of transparency and closure, we wanted to share that we've made the difficult decision to stop our new development work on Anthem, aka Anthem Next. We will, however, continue to keep Anthem live service running as it exists today. So if you love Anthem the way it is right now, fantastic, because that's what you got, and that's all you're ever going to get. As we know, Anthem was a horrific failure, and I think would go down in history as one of the biggest failures of any game, were it not for Cyberpunk 2077 kind of overshadowing them.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny to think that the two like epic fails in gaming history had to be right on top of each other. And I think in many ways, Cyberpunk was the best thing that ever happened to Anthem, because it took all eyes off of what a horrible mess Anthem was. But so that happened. As I said, Anthem will still continue as a game, as a real like still be supported. It's nothing else is going to happen there, and you're not going to lose Anthem at all for what you're used to. But that Anthem Next thing, not going to happen. They have pulled all of the BioWare the devs off of Anthem and put them officially onto
take care of a cat.
Okay.
Oh, no, he's fucking
Cats.
He's fucking with me. He acts like he's gonna pee the diaper, and then he walks away as soon as I make the move to get up.
So they pulled all the devs off of Anthem, put them onto Dragon Age 4, which is a good thing. All things being equal, Anthem, I had no desire to play it, and even less than when it came out, and it was awful. Or at least it didn't have much story. It just was a flying simulator.
Yeah, I remember playing the demo and just not really liking the combat, because it felt like enemies. In any shooter, it's frustrating when an enemy spawns behind you. But in this one, because it all takes place kind of in the air in 3D, they will spawn behind you, above you, below you, beside you. And it's just like, well, I'm getting shot from all angles and I don't know where it's coming from.
Right. There was a lot of bad design because, well, that we've gone over all of the reasons why Anthem turned out the way it did, but bad management, and pretty much EA sticking its nose in there, or everybody trying to please EA, kind of ended up with Anthem being, and also BioWare being brought onto this game that this is really not their bailiwick. This is not what their specialty is, and kind of forcing them to do a game that is way out of their wheelhouse. So yeah, that happened. But also separately, but very much connected to Anthem Next being killed, was other news that came out later in the week that Electronic Arts is apparently now no longer mandating that Dragon Age 4 be multiplayer. There were several articles that came out, most notably, of course, Jason Schreier, but there was another one that's kind of, but it's the most expansive history that you could possibly have of all the Dragon Age 4 development up to this point. And it was kind of elucidating that Dragon Age 4 had what the devs said at one point was their early build, which was called Joplin. And Joplin, they said, was some of the best work they'd ever worked on. That it was an amazing game, that it was going to be smaller in scope, but far more involved with decisions that you make affecting the story, that it was going to be way more story driven and relationship driven, which is, of course, what Dragon Age 4 is. And anybody who thinks it's not doesn't understand Dragon Age 4. But clearly EA did not understand Dragon Age 4, because when they saw that, they said, nope, we don't like this. You need to scrap it. And by the way, everything now needs to be multiplayer. We want multiplayer. And they've actually been pushing this multiplayer thing for years. And their creative chief executive officer, the CEO of EA, Andrew Wilson, called this trend games as a service.
I remember they made a point years ago that we will no longer make single player games.
We will no longer make single player games. So they came in, EA execs came in, saw Joplin, and they said, yeah, fine, but where's the multiplayer? And EA and BioWare was like, well, we really don't have multiplayer in this because we really don't specialize in multiplayer games. We kind of don't do that. And they said, you do now. So they chucked Joplin and restarted over on another game, another version of it, where they started from zero and building it up as a multiplayer game. This led to reportedly the departure of a bunch of people, not the least being Mike Laidlaw, who was the creative director, and kind of, dare I say, if Dragon Age has a father, it probably has multiple fathers, definitely one of the dads of Dragon Age. So that put everybody like, oh shit, this is not going to be a good game. Everybody who loves Dragon Age stood back and said, oh, now we're concerned and we're not buying in on this until you prove something to us. Essentially where I was with Anthem, where it's like, yeah, okay, this is interesting, but I'm not buying it until I know it's good. So it was just a really bad idea. But what made EA finally walk away from this, and this I think is, I expect ineptitude and a lack of understanding from companies like Google with Stadia, because they've never done games before. This is all new to them, and they're unfamiliar with a creative environment where you can't just create a formula, throw money on it, and have an instant hit. I expect EA to know that, but they clearly didn't. And certainly not Andrew Wilson, because There were two things that happened this year that made them finally understand games, which is a terrible thing to say about a publisher that's been publishing games since the beginning. They first saw that Anthem was, as a multiplayer game, was such a colossal failure of unbelievable proportion. And they saw Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a single player game that did really well, won critical acclaim, outperformed the EA sales expectations. They got 10 million players in the first 4 months on a single player game. And all of a sudden, EA has come to this epiphany. Good single player games make more money sometimes than bad multiplayer games. Maybe we shouldn't mandate all games be multiplayer, and maybe we should just let companies that do really good single player games make more really good single player games, so they'll sell 10 million copies in 4 months. So it took them a while to get to the party, but I am so glad they're there. It is nice to know now that EA is no longer pulling against developers and pulling with them. Because if you're looking at a company like BioWare that makes, especially Dragon Age, a game that is at its core about relationships and first and fighting second, but relationships and story are what drive that game. If you had that fighting and just made it multiplayer, that would not only would you not get people wanting to play it that are like fighting games, you also would alienate everybody who came to it for the relationships and for the story. So yeah, they're finally here. We're all pulling together, and it gives me hope that possibly two things might happen. I think it's a little bit wish listy, but I guess it's not impossible at this point. One, bring back Joplin. If Joplin was as good as the developers say it was, maybe we need to revisit Joplin and go back to what sounded like a really good idea and something I was definitely interested in as a Dragon Age like devotee. But also possibly that they might be able to bring back Mike Laidlaw and some of those old developers who understand that Dragon Age universe and understand Dragon Age players and have built excellent games for us that we just want more of.
I wonder if this will push the development back any, if like
I'm sure it's going to push the development back. They lost a lot of time pulling their puds about multiplayer. And it's hopefully that circle jerk has now finally ended and EA will get its fingers out of the pie and let the developers develop what they want to. The fact that they're saying we're not going to mandate multiplayer, you go make a single player, that's already a huge improvement on what I was hoping for Dragon Age.
I wonder if they finally decided what should this game be, after 6-8 years in development.
Yeah. I would think that this is probably set back development, depending on what state Joplin was in, depending on how quickly, if they choose to go back to Joplin and that plan, depending on how many people they can get onto it. I'm expecting this is probably going to delay it at least another 2 years.
And I was
because it was 2 years ago that they abandoned Joplin and built the second iteration. So if they go back to Joplin, it's going to be 2.5 years for everybody to pick back up where they were, assuming they start with it. They may just throw all of that away and start over with a third version of the game, which I would say would take another 7 to 10 years. I may be in my retirement age before I see Dragon Age 4. And I'm not putting it past them.
That game has been in development hell. But so when you're talking about this, I was trying to remember,
created by EA. development hell created 100% by EA, fucking with the winning formula. They had a winning formula. They just didn't like the formula.
There was Dragon Age multiplayer, right? I have like a vague memory of playing one like that.
Yes, there was Dragon Age multiplayer, very similar to Mass Effect's multiplayer in that it was 4-person teams and you just kind of went through maps. Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
I played a lot of it, but
was it for Inquisition or 2?
Inquisition. There was no multiplayer for 2.
It's funny.
So
like,
they added that component to it, but it wasn't until now. It wasn't great. It was fine. You had to really like Dragon Age in order. You would not come to that multiplayer on its own. It was definitely did not stand on its own.
I remember playing it and enjoying it when playing it with like you and Chris and maybe someone else. But then obviously I'd forgotten it existed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we got a goalie in the chat room who says, I'm hearing they might come out with a Skyrim board game. Yes, in fact, I read that today. A Skyrim board game is coming. And AC Wraith has the link. It is launching on a new Kickstarter alternative.
Yes, yeah, not Kickstarter. It's a new crowdfunding site dedicated to just tabletop games called GameHounds.
Cool. Okay. Good.
And apparently, like I followed that link, and apparently the campaign is like just a draft at this moment, so it's not accepting donations. It's sort of just like, hey, this is something we're thinking about doing, and sign up for updates.
Right. So that, I guess, counts as the best news that I've heard in a while, is that EA has finally understood gaming. Let's see how long it sticks.
Well, in other good news, and this can lead to a segue in other things, the developer of Terraria got their access to their Google accounts back. And so they will proceed to release Terraria on Stadia as they previously planned, because previously they had been locked. The CEO had been locked out of his Google account for weeks, making it basically impossible for them to do any development for Google and Stadia. And he went through a circular hell of customer help, and then eventually just had to put out a notice on Twitter like, hey, we cannot update Stadia on Google because we've lost access. Like, this is bullshit. People shouldn't work with Google because this is how they treat their team. And it seems like they have finally gotten the access to their account back. So that is just good news. It's good to see that story finally end on a good note, as opposed to just he's locked out forever.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of sad that, I mean, it's very much an evidence of what's wrong with Google, because if the head of a development company working with Google or working with Stadia at a very high level can't get his Gmail account unblocked because of some screw up with the algorithm, what hope do we ever have of that?
Yeah.
I mean, if he hadn't gone so public and made so much news, there's no way that account would come back.
Yeah, most likely. And so
here's another thing that kind of bothers me is that he's now like, okay, you sorted it out. Now we're coming back to Stadia. I really wish he said that he wasn't coming back to Stadia, because all the problems with Google have not been fixed. Everything was the reason why he said he wasn't, he wanted to not come to Stadia. Still there. It's just not his problem anymore.
Yeah.
I wish that he'd stuck with it, because he was saying something right. He was saying something that was important. And then when his problem got fixed, because he had the platform to be able to make news, then once it's all fixed, then everything's better and it all goes back to the same. And it doesn't actually either address the problem, and more so, it doesn't fix the problem that he specifically said was the reason why Terraria wasn't coming to Stadia.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine there might be some contract thing there, like, hey, we had a contract that we would do this. We were literally unable to do that, but now that we can, he's still kind of obligated to put it out for Stadia.
Maybe. But
there is the last paragraph of the Kotaku article about this has a good point. It says, so good news, Terraria is coming to Google Stadia at some point. Bad news, it's completely possible that Stadia won't even be around before it finally releases on Google's failing streaming platform.
That is absolutely true. Wow. I mean, I haven't got any notes on it, but did you hear there are so many postmortems coming down about Google Stadia right now?
Yeah. So you had said something that there was more Stadia news this week, and I didn't know about that. So I went looking and found one about how they blew a bunch of money on ports.
Millions and millions of dollars porting over Red Dead Redemption 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when they launched, most people were like, nah, no.
Yeah, like they spent all these tens of millions of dollars to port these games, and then they failed to get enough users for anything. Like they undershot their user numbers by a whole lot.
Like hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah.
And it's funny that they spent so much on Red Dead 2 because like all that money they could have offered to other people to, put their games on, because there really weren't a lot of games on Stadia. And even now, there's not really a lot on Stadia when you compare it to, the other gaming platforms. And so, I remember when the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One first launched, they launched at a time when a lot of people were speculating that, this would be the end of consoles because mobile games were blowing up. No one was really sure how these consoles would do. Right. And so a lot of the big name developers didn't really have a lot of stuff ready out of the gate. And so that's why in those early years, you saw a lot of HD ports of games because those were developers like, okay, we need something to put on here. But that lack of big games was made up for by a lot of indie games being put out on those platforms. They just had content. Even if they didn't have a lot of big AAA studio games, they at least had a lot of content to put on their platforms.
Right, because they knew that the AAAs would come eventually.
And you saw this in E3 when like Microsoft said like, look at all the games, and they had like there's like 12 or 15 like indie developers up on stage at the same time on E3. Like they were really promoting that. Right. Google never did that. They never had like they put all their eggs in a few baskets, and those few baskets didn't pan out.
Right. And it speaks again in the same way that EA seemed to have had a complete lack of understanding of the game, how to make games, how to do games, that they come from a tech world where it is very analytical. You just and their slogan of much, and that a lot of people think it was so fantastic, of go fast and break things. Their idea was to go fast, to take billions of dollars, throw it, go fast, get all these AAA titles and make it all happen. And if it doesn't work, then walk away. And if you look at Killed by Google, there's a website, killedbygoogle.com, that is just nothing but a list of cases where they've done exactly that, where they've dug deep into their very vast amount of money and just said, well, if we throw a bunch of money at it and go for the very best, then clearly we're going to be successful, without a core understanding of the underlying industry that they're moving into. Mm-hmm. Games are not apps. Apps are very analytical. You just worry about UI, you worry about stability, you worry about these very, knuckles, granola stuff. Where games, it is a iterative process that you try something and it doesn't work, and somebody else is trying something and it doesn't work, but you get together and you duke it out, and eventually through this kind of crucible of creative people working together, then you find the winning combination. That is why games take as long as they do. And that is one of the inherent misunderstandings about game development, is it's a creative process that uses technology to convey those ideas. It is not a technological process where you get a couple of writers to just give it some structure. So yeah, that's the biggest problem there. And hopefully, I'd like to think that people will learn from this cautionary tale of, you can't just, grab a poo-poo platter of genre developers and money and just throw it together and expect, we're going to make billions. No. That's not how billions are made in the game industry any more than that's not how billions are made with a book. Yeah, some of them, certainly. J.K. Rowling, she could put out anything. She could smear feces on a page and people will still buy it. But that's not going to be we're not at that level yet of, and rightfully so. I'm kind of glad that games are not like that someone can put out shitty games. Hideo Kojima, if Hideo Kojima put out a shitty game, people would not buy it. There is no such thing as a superstar. The only thing that makes them a superstar is their creative abilities, not their name. Their name may actually garner them a few extra dollars to work, but it's only because they are truly very talented. And the minute that they aren't, we will turn on them like rabid dogs. We will rip apart any game.
I feel like
I don't care who made it.
The name will guarantee a bunch of pre-orders, but depending on how the game turns out, there could be a huge backlash to that.
CD Projekt Red is a perfect example of that. CD Projekt Red walked in with a sterling reputation, and they walked away a broken company.
And speaking of CD Projekt Red, I don't have the article in front of me, but I know that they have been through even more shit. Like, to a degree that's like, man, just stop, they're dead. Like, it's just beating a dead horse at this point. The studio's not dead, but like it's sort of one disaster on top of another.
Yeah, the bad news just keeps rolling. At this point, I'm starting to feel bad for him. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm definitely, I'm rooting for them to have a little good news at this point. So yeah, what have you got that he had? I mean, I've got the
it's that, like,
further
the hack,
details,
because previously they had said that the hack didn't release personal information for the employees, but I guess that's actually not true.
It did. Yeah. So they said Wednesday that they've got an update coming out. Apparently this was supposed to be a really substantial update that's going to fix quite a bit of issues. I mean, obviously it's not going to fix all issues because it's just that update doesn't exist yet, but that it would improve Cyberpunk 2077 considerably. And it was due out, they said, by the end of March. Well, the end of February. Well, it's the end of February right now, and we don't have it. And on Wednesday, CD Projekt Red made the announcement that this second patch, this 1.03 or whatever it is going to be delayed as a direct result of the breach. In the process of that breach happening, it threw the company into such disarray, according to people within CD Projekt Red, that the hackers, because of the hack, the company had to cut off remote access to internal network resources and isolate the internal network from the internet. and that developers were locked out of being able to access the VPN to work on the game for 2 weeks, meaning that all work was shut down completely. And in addition, it wasn't just shutting down the VPN and everybody taking an unscheduled vacation. It was also that in some cases, and in most of the cases, anybody that was working from home, which right now is most of the development team, all had to send their laptops back into the company so that the laptops could be scrubbed before they would be allowed access onto the VPN. And then, in addition to that, for the poor employees who I really feel for, because these are guys that sat and watched their senior management making promises that they knew that they could not reach, and knew that those promises were going to come back onto their shoulders to make happen, and knew weren't possible. These are the guys that received the death threats after the game came out in exactly the state that they expected it to, but nobody was listening to them in senior management. Now, a bunch of them have been told by CD Projekt Red that they need to freeze their bank accounts and report the security breach to officials, passport details, Polish identification numbers, the whole lot. Many of them had that compromised. So you got 2 weeks off and have to send in your laptop, and now you're backing, all of your work is backing up on top of you. And during those 2 weeks, you have to go deal with freezing all of your accounts, contacting the government for having your personal information taken by hackers, confirmed hackers of the worst kind. Hello Kitty is no joke. So, man, what a fucking nightmare this has become. And I've gone from last week being like, hee hoo, I want to see what was in there, to like, oh, yeah, okay, I feel a little guilty now. This isn't funny anymore.
Yeah, because it wasn't like there's like an irony in this happening to a developer that put out a game called Cyberpunk just recently.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is the hack really doesn't have anything to do with the game or the release of the game or even the reception of the game. Like
Hello Kitty did it for the money. It was just for the money.
They weren't targeted because, oh, Cyberpunk is bad. They were targeted because Hello Kitty found some sort of vulnerability and realized we can exploit the hell out of this.
Yeah, they were in it for the money. They're absolutely, and they've been known to do this in the past. I mean, Hello Kitty is only suspected; it's not confirmed by Hello Kitty people, but the telltale signs are all there. It's pretty obvious that there's a number of, if you feel like looking at it in the website, in the world, about whether it's really what's the name of the hacker, who's the hacker group that did it, and it's pretty obvious if you look at the evidence that it's Hello Kitty. So yeah, what a mess. I feel so sorry for them. I almost feel like if I thought that I could get cookies to CD Projekt Red in any kind of edible shape, I would send them a batch of cookies, because it's now not so funny anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything else?
Yeah, in terms of
actually, let me go, because I got bigger stuff.
Okay.
Epic versus Apple.
Oh yeah, I didn't see anything about this.
So much going on. Well, first off, remember last week we talked about Epic versus Apple, and that Apple was going to Valve to release sales data to help them in their lawsuit, and either both defending and their countersuit against Epic. Well, guess what happened yesterday? A judge, California Magistrate Judge Thomas S. Hickson ordered Valve to produce historical sales, pricing, and other data for 436 games sold by Valve. So Apple had filed that subpoena back in November. We talked about yesterday how that it was going to be decided this week. Well, it got decided, and according to stories, to reports, when Valve was asked, they were asked for all games and going all the way back to 2015. The judge said no. Well, first off, Valve said, yeah, we're not providing that. Then Apple came back and said, okay, how about 436 games back to 2015? And Valve said, nah, fuck off. Well, they went to court, and the judge has ordered Valve to produce 400 these sales records on 36 games back to 2017. So he knocked off 2 years of the request. But still, Valve is going to be producing these records and handing them over to Apple. Hickson did say in the process, offered a consolation to Valve when he was making the decision, making his judgment. He said, Apple has salted the earth with subpoenas, so don't worry, it's not just you. That was his one bit of consolation to him for ruling the way he did. And in other related news to the Epic versus Apple, we mentioned last week that Epic had tried to go to, what was it, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and tried to get a law passed that would help in
Minnesota.
their fight. Minnesota.
I think it was an
That's right.
M state.
Yeah, Minnesota sounds right. So they were trying to get the Minnesota lawmakers to pass some legislation that would help them in their fight against Apple and open up the walled garden of Apple and Google. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. We'll continue on. Sorry, mixing stuff up. So try to break open the walls of those walled gardens. And that failed. And then we also mentioned that Epic had gone to the UK trying to get the Competition Appeal Tribunal to rule in its favor about Apple's and Google's walled garden, and trying to make them do legislation or have some kind of ruling that this was anti-competitive. Well, last week, Epic failed. Was blocked from courts in the UK by that appeal tribunal because according to the tribunal, they said that this needs to be heard in the US. We're not going to hear it. We're not the right jurisdiction for this. So Epic is not going to be able to continue with its antitrust lawsuit against Apple in the UK. It has to happen here. And in addition, the tribunal also ruled that it can move forward in a similar lawsuit against Google. It can't for Apple. It can for Google. So according to the BBC, Justice Roth, the judge handling the case, was far from persuaded that the UK was a suitable place for the dispute for Apple, because nowhere in the UK did Apple have any kind of business within their borders that was dealing specifically with Fortnite. However, Google very much has offices in Ireland that do handle the kind of business that would be involved with Fortnite. So they said that Justice Roth said that Epic he believes that they should be allowed to continue with their case against Google for all these various legal reasons of the walled garden and anti-competition, because of Google's corporate structure, the role that they have in Irish subsidiaries, and how certain divisions of Google's were involved in implementing Fortnite's removal from Google Play. But Apple didn't have that. It wasn't within their borders. So that's why they're saying, hey, it's Google, yes, Apple, no.
Which is
even though
not
Apple
necessarily
does have a presence in Ireland. Their divisions were not involved with that.
It's like outside the scope of their law.
Right,
And
exactly.
so it's not necessarily ruling on the merits of the case, it's more jurisdiction.
Yep. Now, the tribunal did say that if Epic wins and U.S. courts don't account for relief for malfeasance done within the UK borders, then that would be a powerful factor for the tribunal revisiting the possibility of Apple being tried in the UK, but only after a trial happens in the US. And depending on if there are any penalties, if those penalties include any customers from the UK, then it can be issued. But for right now, as far as it's being in the UK, Google yes, Apple no.
That's interesting.
Yep. So I'm wondering, I would imagine that I wonder, would those sales records be public because they're part of a lawsuit?
You would think so.
Will we ever see access to these?
Yeah, I wonder if they were turned over and they'll just remain private for these lawyer teams to look over, or if it will be included in a public record.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I just play one on YouTube.
I think there's I don't think it will become public because it's sort of unless Apple like takes that information and makes it public as part of their argument. Right.
So yeah, at the very least, I would be very interested in seeing these sales figures for these 436 games. Depending on what games they are.
436 games for Valve. And what I was reading is, I guess those are games that straddle the Epic Store and Valve.
Okay.
But I'm curious, like, what are they actually looking for? Like, what does that information tell them? Because Steam is a different storefront than Epic. And even though they're both on the PC, Steam has a history and a much larger user base. And so, like, I don't know if those sales numbers are directly comparable. Like, if you look at Epic and you see, Game X sold less on Epic than it did on Steam, like, what does that actually tell you? There seem to be so many factors involved in why that could have happened.
I will research that for you and get back to you. It's obviously not something that comes to the top of your Google search. So I will look. I mean, it's been written about pretty substantially. I'm sure that the reasonings are embedded in one or more articles. So I will research that and get back to you on it.
Okay.
Next week.
Okay.
Assuming that, the puppy hasn't chewed through all of my power cords. Which has happened. All right. So your next item.
I know that you were really looking forward to E3 this year. That you just in the Discord and the text messages every day, it's just like, oh, I can't wait for E3. Oh, I can't wait for E3. I can't wait for E3. And I'm sorry to say that it looks like a live physical in-person show for E3 has been canceled for this year. And they are currently looking to try to do another virtual event like they did last year.
Right.
Which, honestly, is really not that much of a surprise.
No, not even remotely. I mean, it's typically happens in June. So it's, we're talking about in just a couple of months. But I'm going to try and pull up a screenshot for you of, let's see. Give me a second. I have too many things open on my screen. Okay,
I think shot you're looking for is like the list of convention events for LA.
Yeah. So where this was found by someone was a listing by the convention center, the LA Convention Center. And somebody found a list of events that are scheduled for 2021 at the LA Convention Center. And one of them, as you can see, third way down, I don't know if you can see you can see it right here, E3 2021, right there. And it says E3 2021 was scheduled for June 15th. It expected 27,000 total room nights, which gives you an idea of how big E3 still is to the LA Convention Center compared to all others. By far, it is the largest.
Huge.
Yeah, it's still huge.
I did not know that it was, at least according to this assumption, like their biggest show.
Oh, yeah, their biggest show. Because this is their whole year. This one goes all the way down. Let me get this out of the way so you can see it. It goes all the way to December. So these are all the events at the convention center. And it is by far the largest. But if you will see here where it says canceled live event in 2021, working with production team on broadcast options at LA Live, LA Convention Center, which LA Live is like the building next door. Of the actual convention center where they hold real people, working with 2022 and 2023 license. And there's a couple things that piqued my curiosity on this. One, obviously, E3 is canceled. That goes without saying. Even if E3 hasn't confirmed it, it's pretty clear it's canceled. But two, working on 2022 and 2023 license. Now, I was always under the impression that E3, that the name of the organization, that runs E3, the ESA. The ESA had a long-term multi-year contract with the LA Convention Center to hold E3. The fact that we're looking at 2022 and 2023 license, granted that might be different than the actual contract itself, but it leads you to possibly believe that they may be going year to year right now with the convention center and not, long-term contract thing, which, if you're confident about your annual convention that's been going on for 25, 30 years, if you're confident about that convention happening every, for the next 10 years, you sign a contract for 10 years.
Yeah. In fact,
if you're not so confident about it going, then you go year by year.
If you look down
month-to-month contract.
Anime Expo 2021, it says that they are signing the license agreement through 2030.
Right.
So clearly Anime Expo expects to have a show up through 2030.
Right. But these guys, looks like E3, ESA is not so confident that they're not signing long-term agreements. They're going year to year. And this is a GameHounds exclusive. Nobody else picked up on this. And as soon as I read it, I'm like, oh, they're signing it year by year, which means that they anticipate that they're not confident that they're going to make it to the next year. And they're signing that license for only the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 2 years.
Yes, if they're working on 2022 and 2023, it seems like the ESA at least expects to try to put on a show by 2023, but they're not quite sure beyond that. They're not confident enough to sign through 2030 like Anime Expo.
Right.
But they're at least going to try to go for another 2 years.
Yeah. Possibly. And it may be that this is a document that was written from the point of view of the convention center. So obviously the convention center wants to lock them in as many years as possible. It may be that they're willing to talk about 2021, but 2022, but they're not interested in talking about 2023. And the convention center is kind of working on them, trying to get them to sign for 2023.
And it's interesting because I remember going all the way back, I think we had always talked about how, like before even COVID hit, we were talking that, yeah, the ESA would definitely have an E3 in 2020, but 2021 was the question, because they would, even if they were unable to put on a show, like they would put on something, and then depending on how that something turned out, that would determine like the final year and whether it would like their death. Like they had to make one last big go at it. So there had to be at least 2 years, right? One final go and then like the death knell. And so if they're going
funeral.
virtual again, yeah, the final go and then the funeral. And so if the past
the
2
funeral
years,
and the wake.
yes, yeah. And so if 2020 and 2021 have both gone virtual, then that means ESA is still kind of in that mode of like, okay, well, let's keep these last 2 years going, 2022 is when we'll put on the show, and then depending on how that's received, who
then
knows
2023 might be the funeral. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In addition, thinking about the economics of it, it's probably hell of a lot cheaper to do a virtual show than it is to do a real life convention center show by orders of magnitude. So it may be that the money that they would normally have budgeted, they're using so much less of it that they actually have a little bit more money in store.
But I wonder if
a little more gas in the tank to actually push them over to make them go for 2 more years as opposed to 1.
But then I wonder if E3 is virtual, like, are a bunch of publishers really going to pay to be part of that show?
How was the participation with E3 this year? I don't think it was all that great. I think the big companies all do stuff
in
on their own.
2020. I don't think there was an E3 in 2020. I don't even think there was a virtual event.
Well, I know that the individual developers all did their own thing around the E3 time. Like Ubisoft still had their event.
E3 was like, if we're not doing anything.
That's true. June was really at the beginning of it. June was actually the first surge when we all were, because we shut down in April and we were hoping to be out by like mid-June. So yeah.
It was not held in 2020.
Yeah.
And so the question is, since everyone, like all those studios put on their own events, even Jeff Keighley got out there and did like the Summer of Games.
Right.
Will anyone pay to be part of a virtual E3, and will they make any money?
Right.
Right. To justify going for another year?
Yeah. AC Wraith says E3 only exists as fodder for a Devolver Digital show for me. True. The best thing about E3 right now is Devolver Digital shows, because they
always take place outside. They're just trolling E3 at this point.
Oh God, yes. The way Rooster Teeth used to troll E3. I remember Rooster Teeth holding a huge funeral parade for E3 in Santa Monica, down at the Santa Monica Pier. That was just this huge train of musicians and actors, and it looked like a Burning Man procession, and it was a funeral for E3 where they carried like a coffin all the way down. It was and the coffin was supposedly E3. Now it's back in Santa Monica in 2000.
I didn't even hear about that. That's kind of cool.
Look it up. It was Rooster Teeth, I believe it was, and they were protesting that independent developers were being cut out of E3. It was about the years that they got rid of Kentia Hall, which is where the independent developers went. There was the main floor, there was Kentia, and Kentia was where all the crazy was. All the crazy was down there. And they took the crazy out, and all they were left with was what they have now. So, anything else? Do I have anything else? Do you have anything else?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Basically a lot of
I
stuff
do.
related to Sony.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, a lot of people have been rightly complaining that the storage on the PlayStation 5 is too small.
Yes.
Xbox has an expandable hard drive that you can plug in. It's a little crazy fucking expensive. It's like $215,
Yeah.
but it adds like another couple gig to the SSD, I think. Well, now Sony has said that storage upgrades are going to come this summer. They haven't really given any additional information about that. We don't know how much it might cost or even how big
It's
the
just a
storage will
rumor.
be. Yeah, it's just Sony's going to have something this summer.
Yep. And it has to, because if you think about the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5 only has a standard PlayStation 5 has about 667 gigs of playable of available storage space when you're past the operating systems and everything else. 667 sounds like a really big number until you consider that the new Call of Duty game is 133 gigs.
And see, here's the thing though. Everyone always uses Call of Duty as an example. I have not run into any storage issues yet. And maybe it's just the way I play games, where like I download a game, I play it, I usually finish it or get bored of it, and then I delete it. And I have not run into any storage issues yet. And I've downloaded a fair number of games, but they're not these Call of Duty. Not everything is Call of Duty sized, you know?
Right. Not everything is Call of Duty sized, and Call of Duty is an example of it. But I believe at 133 gigs isn't that bigger than a PlayStation 4 internal storage? Usable internal storage?
I don't think so, because obviously then you wouldn't be able to play it.
Right. I think it might be. I remember Blood Reaper saying something about that.
I think PS4 had a 500 gig default, and then the Pro had a terabyte.
Right, but okay, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, the size of the PS5 hard drive is 500 gig, but you know, with the UI and all that, it goes down to about 407 final usability.
All right.
And then the Pro has a terabyte, which you know is then like some other number in actuality.
Right.
So
yeah. And the biggest problem with the PlayStation 5 that is different from the PlayStation 4 is the architecture of the PlayStation 5 is custom to Sony, and it accelerates the loading and processing times, which is great. That's one of the big selling points of a PlayStation 5, but it is impractical to plug in an external hard drive using that architecture. So external hard drives aren't even an option. Where you do have an option for an external hard drive on a PlayStation 4, you really don't have that option for PlayStation 5. What's in that SSD is what you got, and that's about it.
It's that awkward situation where you can put PS4 games on an external hard drive and play them off of that for the PS5, but not PS5 games.
Right. Right.
And so any PS5 version of a game.
Yeah. So it's a particularly irksome ceiling to be hitting for a PlayStation 5, because at least with PlayStation 4 you have some alternatives. You do not have an alternative. You cannot expand internal. You cannot expand external. So
because I think
it's one size.
I think even
if it's too small for you, it's your SOL.
Because I don't think the PlayStation 5 supports external solid state drives.
No, none, because it can't. Because with that accelerated loading times and all of the way that
I don't
the
think
PlayStation
USB
works,
can read fast enough.
Yeah, no. Nothing can read fast enough because of their custom firmware, their custom architecture. That makes it why it's such a great console, but at the same time, it limits you in other ways.
Yeah.
You got to pay. It's pay me now or pay me later. Do you want to pay for longer loading screens and things running a little bit low gear, slower than you were? Or do you want to pay for expandability? What do you want? Or you want it to run fast and be not expandable, or run slower and be expandable. And they opted for the run fast. And now they are trying to address, after the fact, the unexpandable part, because it is a problem. When you're talking about games at the beginning of the generation being 133 gigs, that's something else to consider. We're looking at a console 7 to 8 years on a console generation, and you got one game. The first game, granted, Call of Duty is the big one, but still, the game at the beginning of the cycle is 133 gigs. So that is better than a sixth of the whole available hard drive space. Way more than a sixth, more like a fifth of that hard drive space. So yeah, it's a big deal. AC Ray says, I run almost all my games off of my mechanical drive. The solid state drive is just my OS and Warframe. Yep. So yeah, that was, I think, the only other story that I had. Is that the one? Yeah, it's the only other story. You got my last story.
Well, in other Sony news, one of their really long-running internal studios, Japan Studio, is being not shut down, but downsized into basically shut down. I guess the majority of its development staff will let go after their annual contracts were not renewed. And so they've basically been shrunk into just Team Asobi, which is the development team behind Astro's Playroom.
Right.
And basically, they're just going to focus on Astro and sort of building on the popularity of that.
It's a good game. Not gonna lie. I mean, it's a really good game. I mean, it's not going to take over the world, and you're not. It's not the next. It
made me want to play an Astro's platformer. Like, I want to see an actual big whole platformer game with Astro in it. But basically, that means the Japan studio was in the past responsible for Shadow of the Colossus, Eco, Gravity Rush, Ape Escape, Loco Roco, Patapon, Siren, Knack, like a lot of these, Sony first-party games. Like, not necessarily the hugest ones, but a lot of them. And so I guess they're downsizing everything in that studio.
Have they said why? I mean, they obviously make really good games. Some of those games are really actually quite huge.
Yes, yeah.
For small games, they're not AAA games, but they're actually pretty big names.
So according to the Kotaku article, this feels like something that has been coming for a while. A lot of key staff have left the studio over the years. And so it kind of seems like, this is just something that has been, the writing has been on the wall for a while. And so when a lot of the staff contracts are not renewed, and basically they're shrinking Japan studio into just Team Asobi.
Right. They're taking it to a farm to live out its days. They're not putting it down. They didn't put it down. It went to go live on a farm.
Except the puppy that it gave birth to, they're keeping that. They're keeping the puppy.
Yes, they're keeping the puppy, but the mom, we're sending her to a farm.
The mom had her time in the sun. She's no longer putting out Eco or Shadow Colossus. She's her best days are behind her.
Her best days are behind her. All right. Anything else?
Yes. More Sony news. They had a state of play this past week, which wasn't like the biggest state of play. It was mainly just kind of an update on some of the games coming out. They showed more gameplay for Returnal, which is coming out next month. Turns out that game is a roguelike, which I guess is to be expected.
That's kind of surprising.
with like the Returnal. Yeah. And it seems to be sort of the biggest game that that developer has made. I forget the name. They made the PS4 launch game, the one that you go back and forth with the ship. Oh, fuck! What was the name? But also, Returnal is going to be $70.
The one where you were going around the circle, and yes,
Housemarque.
Thank you.
Housemarque. I had to look that up, but yeah, because it's Sony first party, though, it is going to be a $70 game. And they also showed off more about Kena Bridge of Spirits, which is that sort of interesting looking, basically like character third person game, a kind of game that you just don't see much of. They showed a new trailer for Deathloop that included like a really cool original song called Deja Vu that almost feels like a James Bond theme. And what I think is some of the more interesting ones, the developer behind Absolver showed off a new kung fu game called Sifu that, based on the trailer, basically looked like the Daredevil hallway fight has a game. And considering that Absolver,
Sifu,
Sifu, which I think means like teacher in Japanese or something, or Chinese or something like that. I've seen enough martial arts movies. I've heard Sifu before, but I can't remember the exact context of it.
So yeah, this is a trailer. Slow Clap, great name for a studio, by the way.
And they made Absolver, which was another like really a game focused on like the intricacies of hand-to-hand combat. That was actually really cool. My only problem with the Absolver was that I finished the game before I got like even a fourth of the way through the skill tree. And so it kind of felt like you didn't really make enough game here to justify the skill tree.
Right.
But hey, if I'm totally interested in another game they make, and if they want to make the Daredevil hallway fight the game, I'm absolutely down for that.
Yeah. It looks pretty awesome. I can totally, I maybe not my cup of tea, but I know enough people that are friends of mine that would absolutely freaking love this game.
Badass hand-to-hand combat game.
Yeah. Looks real good.
And then probably the biggest thing they announced is updates for Final Fantasy VII Remake. This includes a PS5 upgrade that is for free for people who have bought the game. And then, so I think it gets a little weird here because I don't think the PS5 upgrade is available for free to people that get the game on PSN Plus next month. But it will be free to people who bought the game. So, there's a little kind of weird technicality stuff there where, yes, the PS5 upgrade is free, but only if you paid for the game, not if you got the game for free. If you got the game for free, you'll have to pay for the upgrade.
Right.
In addition, they're putting out a new version of the game called Final Fantasy Remake Intergrade, which is basically Intergrade, which is basically just the game with an extra piece of DLC that tells a side story of the character Yuffie, who was a big character in Final Fantasy VII, and this basically introduces her in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And from what we could tell from the trailer, is that she appears in the city and kind of goes on her own side adventure. While Cloud and his people are off doing things over here, Yuffie's going to be doing her thing over there. And it's just a piece of DLC. It is available standalone purchase. So
that's kind of nice.
I don't have to buy a whole new version of the game to get Yuffie. I can just buy the DLC, and that is cool. And yeah, it's just kind of, it's neat to see the game getting an update. It's neat to see another character being included. I'm glad that they're continuing with, the Final Fantasy VII Remake universe because it was a really cool game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just in time for it to be free, PS5 upgrade and new content.
Yeah. Looks like it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, anything else?
And then one more thing related to Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Square Enix is putting out a mobile game called Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which is really only relevant because this is basically
Final Fantasy VII what? Multi-Crisis?
Ever Crisis. And this is basically only relevant because it is going to summarize and combine all of the Final Fantasy VII expanded universe, basically. Because the Final Fantasy VII story includes Final Fantasy VII, a game called Before Crisis, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII, and then Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII. And so, they've definitely went back to the Final Fantasy VII well a bunch of times. And so this mobile game is finally just going to collect all of that plot stuff into one game and, make it playable and a bit easier to find the story of Dirge of Cerberus without having to go back and play that PS2 game.
Right, which is kind of a nice thing to have because
that
is such a huge universe.
And it's
deep not only in gameplay and number of games, but also just in the lore of it.
And I think it's
I know there's a lot of people that know that lore like the back of their hand, but there's a lot more that don't.
Yeah,
it's just
and
too
also,
much.
A lot of those games weren't necessarily all that popular. Like Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, I think was. Dirge, not so much. And I do think it's helpful to give people this kind of all-in-one stop shop for the Final Fantasy lore as it used to exist, just in time for the Final Fantasy VII Remake universe to rewrite all of that.
Right.
Because that's what was really interesting about that game is that it wasn't a straight remake. It was basically a remake that in a way acknowledged itself as a remake and said, yo, we're not necessarily going to follow what happened. We're going to go our own path. So yeah, you can read up on all the Final Fantasy VII lore just in time to see something different happen.
Right. So yeah, that is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis.
Ever Crisis, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade.
Intergrade, that's right. I'm sorry.
No. You were right. Ever Crisis is the mobile game, but 7 Remake Intergrade is the update to the PlayStation game. And it's good to see Square Enix continuing with the stupid ass Final Fantasy
names.
Kingdom Hearts is not the only franchise with terrible titles.
Yep.
How many colons can you put in a single title?
Yeah, we need to Ookie Bookie Spelooky needs to be Ookie Bookie the update to it. Ookie Bookie Spelooky : Crisis.
And then there's Crisis Intergrade.
Crisis Intergrade.
Yeah. That'll be the DLC. And then we'll have Crisis Intergrade 2.
That's right. The coloning.
That's right. The sequel needs its own subtitle.
Right. It needs to be Ookie Bookie Spelooky : Crisis : the coloning. All right. So, if you do you have anything else? I think I mean we have really done this to death. We have made up for Andrew's absence very large. We have done very well, dare I say. I think people barely miss his contribution. Yes, I'm talking to you, Andrew. Fight me on this show next week about that crack.
Okay, so I saw this news story, and at first I thought, oh, that seems terrible. And then I saw it, and I thought, oh, okay, that could be interesting.
All right.
I saw that Spirited Away is getting a live action adaptation.
Really?
And then I realized it's getting a live action theatrical adaptation, meaning a stage play.
Wow. Okay. That's
It's just like
interesting.
Okay. And I guess in 2013, there was a live action stage play of Princess Mononoke. So this isn't necessarily the first time this has been done.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's kind of interesting.
I don't know about that. Where? Does it say where? Is it going to be in New York? Is it going to be in Tokyo? Where is it going to be? In London.
Yes.
I would be interested to see how that is. I just don't, I cannot see Spirited Away being done like justice to it being
wait,
done.
Maybe it's not. I think it is in Japan. Because it's starring. I mean, the Princess Mononoke one was in London,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's being directed by. Oh no, it's just a guy who's directed a lot of Tony and Oliver award-winning plays.
Okay.
He's directing this. And yeah, it looks like it will be in Japan because I haven't seen any reason for it not to be. Oh yeah, will debut in the Imperial Theater in Tokyo.
Okay.
In February 2022.
Might be interesting.
Yeah. I remember we started the podcast talking about live action versions of Assassination Classroom, which was surprisingly good, according to I think it was Bitters.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll end with a live action adaptation of Spirited Away. Full circle.
Oh, that's an interesting article out of New York Times. Anime is booming, so why are animators living in poverty? I will have to read that.
He put that on the Discord, and yeah, it's a little bit of a sad read of like, oh shit, a lot of these animators in a lot of the ways that, you know, game developers are kind of abused because they're a dime a dozen. Right. Animators are kind of the same way.
Yeah. You don't go into it to get rich, because only a couple guys get rich out of the millions of art school students that want to do it. All right. So anything else before we want to close out the show? The answer is no. Great.
I think is all I have.
Okay. Good to know. So what you going to play this week?
More 13 Sentinels. I want to finish it. I feel myself getting near. And I guess we haven't mentioned there is currently ongoing until like March 10th a really big sale on PSN for indie games. There's a lot of things on sale.
There is a link for that in the Discord if you want to go to it. There is a huge indie game sale right now. It's right. You didn't talk about that. You actually want to talk about the shocking deals.
Yes, some games are dirt cheap. Oxenfree is a really good, like, coming of age high school game, and it's a buck. It's normally $15, and it's a buck.
What? It's a buck?
$1.
Everybody has to stop right now and go buy that, because it is it's worth 15.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I paid 12 or 13 for it on sale at a buck. It almost is insulting that game is $1. It is such a good game. If you have not played Oxenfree, go get it. What else is there?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I could turn on the PlayStation and look, but
no.
I know I had a list of games.
It's all in the Discord. By the way, you can go to the Discord right now under game deals. I posted this sale. I did not dig that deep into it to see that Oxenfree was $1. I knew that there were a lot of good games for dirt cheap.
Yeah, there's another game that I was really interested in that's like $3. Oh, Felix the Reaper, I think, is like $4, $3 or $4.
Oh God, well worth it. If you like puzzle games, Felix the Reaper is a really, really, really interesting puzzle game and a lot of fun. Great music too. Yeah.
And so I might spend an absurd amount of money buying like 10 games or something off of that.
Yeah, you probably will, and rightfully so. I mean, if you're gonna spend a bunch of money on games, this is where you want to spend a bunch of money on games because you'll get a lot more games for a lot less money.
Yeah.
Go to the Discord. It is in the games deals listing all of the games for sale. In fact, let's see if I can actually pull it up. Stand by. Did you find other?
It should be on the PSN website.
Yeah, and that's why I'm looking. I'm going to go to the Discord to see if I can find the link and bring it up.
I know another one I was looking at.
Itchy Wraith just posted Oxenfree being $1 into the game chat room.
Oh yeah, he also did it in the chat. Yeah.
Yep.
Gris is really cheap. It's like $6.
I have not played Gris, and I want to play Gris. I hear it's amazing. I hear it's gorgeous.
I know there's in the style of Gang Beasts and Human Fall Flat, there's a game called I Am Bread, where you basically play as a piece of bread trying to fling yourself around an environment. And it's another similar like goofy physics game. It's $2 or like, $2.75 or something.
Really?
And so I was like, yeah, I'll totally spend $3 on that.
Super Hot VR is $9.99. Granted, that's VR, but still.
I would totally get that if I had VR.
Let's see. Can we sort this? Will it do it will not sort.
Yeah, Little Nightmares Complete Edition is only $8 or $7.50.
Oh my god, so worth it.
Little Nightmares was a game I talked about a couple weeks ago. That was really good.
Let's see.
And I guess AC Wraith in the chat also mentioned Felix the Reaper. Apparently, I oversold Felix the Reaper. It is not $5. It's actually $2.75.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta go get that.
There's a lot that's like surprisingly $2.50. Like surprisingly hard cuts in a lot of these prices.
Yeah, Hollow Knight Void Heart Edition for $5.99.
And also, I will warn you, because I scrolled through the whole list last night looking for games. It's fucking long. Like it's literally hundreds upon hundreds of things. And so, like whatever you're looking for, you'll probably find it because it's like absurdly long.
Yeah. Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is $9.
I think that's also a VR game though.
Yeah. Well, it's not entirely VR, but it's best with VR.
I think you should be able to filter by price. Sort by price? I know you can do that on the console. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, you can do it on the console. It doesn't show it on the webpage, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
AC Ray says it's basically a Steam sale on PSN.
Yeah, it is actually, which is neat.
Octodad, The Dadliest Catch. If you haven't played it already, it's $2.99. Which, if you haven't played it, is well worth it.
Donut County is only $4, and Donut County is, again, just a goddamn delight of a game.
Journey, $4.94. Well worth it if you've not already played Journey. Yes, it's a little bit long in the tooth. My Friend Pedro is under $10. It's $9.99.
Yeah. Although it's also free if you have Game Pass. So just
that's
FYI.
True.
Oh shit! So Soma's only $3, but I also have Soma already.
Yeah, but that's
again, that's just an example of like, wow, a lot of this stuff is absurd.
Yeah, just stupid cheap. All right, God, Chris, $6.97 or 79 cents. Yeah, I might have to get that. So. Yeah, that's a bunch of good deals, and I'm probably also going to be spending way more money than I should on that spot. So yeah, thanks for that. Any other news, Nick?
No, that was all I had. You had reminded me about that. I forgot that I wanted to talk about the big sale.
So I don't know what I'm going to be playing this week. I could very well be playing Gris and everything else that's there. Could happen. Stranger things have, although definitely more Crusader Kings. Again, always on the Discord server, pretty much every evening, usually about 10:30, 11 o'clock Pacific time for certain. I'm on playing Crusader Kings, and when I get tired of this campaign, which I'm getting sort of tired of this campaign, I'm probably going to start in on the Inbred Freaks campaign. Just making some horrible human beings and seeing how far we can get, just inbreeding
But also,
everybody.
I feel like I want to see how the Empire of Scotland falls, because all empires fall. And I really want to know how that story ends.
Mine won't. I'm going to take over the world.
No, it's going to end eventually. Something is going to happen. It's just going to be like a little chink in the armor, and then just a snowball effect of everything going wrong.
No. It's already getting a little hard to manage, but I have faith that I can do it. It's just getting complicated. My life is complicated. I can do this. Dude, I just got a puppy. I can handle it. It's just bring it.
True.
Bring it.
You want a holy war? I got a fucking puppy here.
All right. So, on that note, where am I? On that note, let's close this out.
I will just really quick in the chat. British Plus says Hollow Knight is better than it seems at first glance. Maybe I'll give that game another shot.
All right. Well, then we will
trying that game and not enjoying it.
All right. Well, that's right. You didn't like it, so you can give it another shot.
No, maybe I'll download For Honor again.
So let's close this out. You've been listening to GameHounds, episode 583. We are recording this on February 28th, 2021. I've been Edie Sellers. With me has been Nick DiNicola. Ways to get a hold of us. GameHounds.net is our website. GameHounds@gmail.com is our email. We record this show live, both audio and video. The audio version, you can find it Spreaker. That's speaker with an R, Spreaker.com. Every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you want to get the video flavored version, there's 3 places to do it: Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Facebook and Twitch, we are the GameHounds, and YouTube, we are GameHounds Vids. Look us up there. If you're watching right now on the stream, I am looking at you right now. Hit the like button. Thumbs up us. It makes a difference. I know we've got a few people in the chat. We only have 1 thumbs up. Dude, come on. Give us a thumbs up here. But also, if you listen to us after the fact, you can on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Google Play and Spotify. And if you listen to us there, please give us a thumbs up, like us, heart us, whatever those platforms have. It really also does make a difference of other people finding us. We would appreciate it very much. And if you have a place to leave us feedback, leave us feedback. We read this stuff. Also, if you're interested in our Discord server, you can check our video feed and look for our Discord server. You can also go to our Facebook page. Our Discord server is listed there. Please join us. It's actually a really fun place. Nick and I are talking to each other. Andrew's in there. We got Blood Reaper. We got AC Wraith. We're all in there. And if you want deals on games, we actually are posting quite a few of those as well. Again, that is on our Facebook page. It is the GameHounds. Finally, don't forget we have a Patreon. Thank you so much to all the Patreons here, or the patrons here. You really make this video feed possible. When we started this a couple of years ago, I said it'll never fly. And you guys made it fly, and you made it happen. So we are very much indebted to you. If you would like to be a patron, we are at patreon.com/GameHounds. Thank you so much to all our patrons. Thank you to you, our listeners. We'll be back next week with Andrew. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. Be safe. Take the virus seriously. Have a good night. Bye-bye, everyone. I don't know why you're waving. We haven't shut down from the video feed, Nick. I don't know why you're waving.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.
All right. Anybody want to say goodbye to the puppy?
Bye.
No, we'll say she's in the other room, just kind of chilling. I'm gonna let her go. She's like I said, she's had a day. Her day has been a very long day. She just got ripped from all of her sisters and is in a whole new house and and feels crappy because she just got her last vaccination or another vaccination and then got thrown into a car and then threw up all over herself on the way home. So she's a little overstimulated. We will let her just chill. But have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much. I'll be on the Discord in a little while. Thank you, Bitters. Thank you, of course, AC Wraith. Thank you so much for being here. When you're not here, it is an emptier place. Thank you to Blood Reaper, of course. Thank you to everyone else. Who else was in here? We had Miles. I think we had Miles in here for a bit. We've been missing because some of
Goalie was here for a minute.
Goalie? Goalie who? Just kidding. That guy. I was going to show Nick my present for Goalie, but I will have to do it next week when you're not here. All right. So good night. Oh, there she is. There she is. There's my girl. Let's move it over so you can see her. Bring her down just a little bit here. Here's my girl. What a good girl. Ooh,
she really is adorable.
She is. I mean, it's a puppy. Of course it's adorable.
Yeah.
That's what they do. But you could tell she's like, I'm not so sure about this world. It's okay. We got you. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Yes, you will. All right. I'm going to go play with my puppy. I will talk to you later. Bye, everyone.